Welcome everybody to the Christian Marauder as we continue our study in Revelations chapter 16 today, as we look at how a brave new world cometh. Did you know that there is a brave new world cometh that's based on the old ancient Baal cycle? Reveal how the world's ruling elites today plan to bring forth a new world order. Did you know that? Did you know that the Baal cycle mirrors Marxism and socialism march for world domination to bring about a restoration of a upper ruling class as it was in the days of emperors and pharaohs and kings, the days of nobility and serfs, a return to a new golden age? Well, folks, to sum up what this ancient Canaanite Baal cycle is, as simply as I can, it goes like this. The God of all creation retires or is overthrown. The ancient God myths all vary on this thing, but basically the old ancient primordial God simply fades out of the scene. Some people say he just retires and turns it all over to the younger gods to take over the governance of the universe. To a young God called Baal, a storm god who bears the title, the rider of the clouds, the almighty, the lord of the earth, the gods of storms and bringer of rain. It matches Zeus and Jupiter, maybe possibly Marduk too, all finger puppets of the same entity. This new god is considered the most narcissistic and aggressive of all the gods. He's the one whom all mortals must absolutely depend on to ensure the life-giving waters for crops to grow and food to be had, so that all commerce can flow, that you can buy, sell, and eat. Sound familiar here? So that you can maintain life itself. Well, folks, the Baal cycle goes on like this. The primordial God that created it all decided to retire, or maybe he just vanished. Nobody really knows. So, and this left a vacuum. And so Baal was left in charge, so to speak, and he was challenged by Yam. Yam is the chaos monster of the sea, Tiamat. And there was this battle going on, who was in charge. So Tiamat sent forth some monsters to challenge Baal's authority, a big bird, so to speak. So Baal arms himself with magical weapons made by the craftsman god Kothar. To make a long story short, the god of death called Mot joined forces with Baal after they fought each other back and forth for some time. And then Baal slays Yam, and they chop up Yam or Tiamat to make the heavens and the earth and make humanity to serve the gods. The ancient Egyptians had their version of this with their gods, Re and Set. Set may be Saturn, or most is Mot, so to speak, the god of death, which pretty much follows the template I just mentioned with some variations, and I'm being very oversimplistic right now. Well, folks, the most important thing to remember about the Baal cycle is this: the chopping up of Tiamat, or Yam, to make a brave new world. That's the idea you need to grasp why that is. Next, this idea actually connects to Revelations chapter 16, where God pours out the 7 bowls of wrath upon humanity and also upon the leading fallen watchers. And you can say that these are the principalities behind the names used in the Baal cycle, or the Baal cycle, as well as what is called the elemental spirits that occultists use to ensure one's life is healthy and blessed and long life and free of illness and so forth, etc. So, for example, 4 of the elemental spirits that coincide with the Baal cycle, and I don't have time to get into all the details here, are basically water, fire, and air, and there's also a 5th one called spirit. So I want to show you how all this works. Just keep tracking with me. I know this is probably new for many, but I would just suggest you watch Skywatch TV and the good people there who have a lot of this information, as well as Dr. Michael Heiser, L.A. Marzulli, and so many others folks that are out there studying this stuff. Well, Revelations chapter 16 verses 2 and 3, if you don't believe me, refers to fresh and salt water. And Revelation 16 verse 8 refers to the sun burning up life on earth, fire. So you have water and you have fire. Verses 17 and 19 deals with the air. It says that the air. It deals with the air and the storms. And verse 18 deals with the earth. So you have the 4 elemental spirits that are being judged listed in the book of Revelation in chapter 16, who are behind deceiving humanity. Okay? So keep tracking with me. So you have 4 of the occult elemental spirit beings are going to turn on humanity with in all their deceptive promises of health and redemption that they give to man is going to be proven false. Okay? In other words, God's going to pit the nature of the devil and evil against the evil in humanity, so to speak. I'm just saying. Just try to wrap your head around that for a minute, folks. Just keep tracking with me. I know this is a lot of this is pretty much new to you, and it's hard to grasp. And I simply do not have 16 hours of lectures to give to you, so I can explain in in-depth by step-by-step manner. That's why you have to do some of your own research. So the occult world has 5 elemental spirits: water, fire, air, earth, and the last is spirit. So the idea behind all this is as follows. Water. Water is necessary for life. Its season is autumn, and the idea of the autumn winds come from the west. That's Revelation chapter 16, verse 2 and 3. Okay? Do you remember how the book of Daniel talks about the kings of the east, the north, the south? So water season is autumn, and the wind comes from the west. Okay? That's brought out in Revelation 16, verse 2 and 3 about water. Fire season is summer, and its root is from the south. That's Revelation 16, verse 8. Just keep tracking with me. Air season is spring and comes from the east. It's the east wind. That's found in Revelation 16 and verses 17 and 21 and verse 12, where it speaks of the kings of the east coming. So, folks, all this will tie in and make sense in due time. The 4th elemental is earth, and its season is in winter. Its direction is to the north. Revelation 16:18 talks about the earth and the earthquake that happens, and it talks about this direction north. Okay? And remember, Lucifer in Isaiah chapter 14 wants to exalt his throne and sit on the farthest sides of the north to rule the earth, to take it over, so to speak, and to rule humanity. And just keep tracking with me. I got to lay the foundations so you can kind of follow me on this, because this is, I know, brand new to many of you. Okay? The earth-real spirit elemental is considered what binds all together sometime in the future to make a brave new world out of the body parts of the old, to bring forth a new golden dawn, or some say a new golden era. That's the whole idea behind the occult world, is to chop up the existing order and bring about a synthetic new world system. Okay? That is exactly what they want to do. That's exactly what happened in Genesis chapter 6 when they tried to reshape and refashion humanity into the image and likeness of the evil one. They want to reshape humanity again and change what it means to be human. They want to do this again. And so in the end times, we're going to see this. And this will cause God to pour out those 7 bowls of wrath upon rebellious humanity who listen to the principalities and the elite class rulers who want to bring all this about, to chop up the existing order to bring about a new world system. Okay? Just like how it says in the ancient Mesopotamian creation myth that Tiamat was chopped up in order to make a brave new world. That's the game plan of the New World Order expressed in the ancient mythology here, folks. You're talking about a criminal element who's going to broadcast what they want to do and mirror their crimes upon God, so to speak. So their idea is to chop up God's order and reshape it and remake it. There's a lot here, and you need to keep tracking with me because the evidence abounds that connects the Baal cycle and building back better a new world from the old, outdated world for the new gods and their elite class of people. Okay? Keep tracking with me. For example, listen to this. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, an unelected elitist, is the one who seeks to rule the world by reshaping it by what he calls the Great Reset that comes by the 4th Industrial Revolution. You need to go to the World Economic Forum and find out what the 4th Industrial Revolution is about. It's about the Great Reset. And in fact, Joe Biden and Klaus Schwab are really close friends. In 2000, I think it's 16 and 17, and probably earlier, Joe Biden attended Davos meetings with Klaus Schwab, and he was reportedly yupping it up with Klaus Schwab. He is all in. He's a full-scale globalist, okay? He wants this new world order. Basically, Klaus Schwab and the UN World Economic Forum is a cult. So Joe Biden attended Davos, okay? And he is friends with Klaus Schwab. And so Joe Biden is in this cult. It's basically a cult where Klaus Schwab is the de facto ruler of the world. Everybody gets their info from him. These people, this is just not limited to just the Joe Biden. The industrial tech giants and world leaders have all signed in on the UN World Economic Forum's desire for a great reset of the world's economy. And no one dare challenge Klaus Schwab's idea, or else they face wrath. No one dares point out the failures of Marxism and such systems have imposed historically to these people. You can't do that. These people have bought in a lie. They are in a what we would term a cult. And Joe Biden is in this cult. So is Justin Trudeau of Canada and many world's leaders. And people like John Kerry and most of, I think all of Joe Biden's picked cabinet are all about the New World Order. Okay, that's what they want. Klaus Schwab, in his book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, states this, and I quote, "The Fourth Industrial Revolution, however, is not only about smart and connected machines and systems. Its scope is much wider. Occurring simultaneously are waves of further breakthroughs in areas ranging from gene sequencing to nanotechnology, from renewable quantum computing. It is the fusion of these technologies and their interaction across the physical, digital, and biological domains that make the Fourth Industrial Revolution fundamentally different from previous revolutions, industrial revolutions." Okay, let me try to break this down for you here. He says that it's a fusion of technologies, their interactions across the physical, digital, and biological domains. Now, Klaus Schwab goes on in the book and he describes what this interaction across physical, digital, and biological domains are. And I quote, "We must address individually and collectively moral and ethical issues raised by cutting-edge research in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, which will enable significant life extension, designer babies, and memory extraction." I'm not making this stuff up, folks. This is Klaus Schwab. This is the guy who Joe Biden looks up to and gets his marching orders, and most of the world's elites get their marching orders from this guy. The idea is to significantly increase the life extension, make designer babies, basically make a super race or make a dumbed-down worker class, one of the two, and memory extraction. In other words, they want to be able to have technologies, put AI into humanity to alter humanity and reshape humanity as they see best. Okay? I'll continue on with this here in a minute. In fact, Derek and Sharon Gilbert of Skywatch TV mentions that the Great Reset is a code word for the great Egyptian gods and set to bring forth the sun deity back to life to rule the world and reshape it, much like the Egyptian version of the Baal cycle, which it is. These Luciferian underpinnings of the World Economic Forum are undeniable and linked to the Baal cycle by using the idea of blending the four elementals of water, fire, and air and earth to create a new world where all are united, reset in a spiritual unity, will, and purposes to a new creation made out of the old after they chop it up and destroy it. The idea behind the Baal cycles and the five Gnostic elementals is that mankind must be liberated from the material world through occultic illumination to ensure their health and vitality and maintain a new rule of justice and redemption for all. One must follow the rituals of a one-world religion and sealed by the mark of allegiance, so one's life remains healthy, good, so all can continue to buy, sell, and survive in this new system of Build Back Better. Okay, that's a mouthful there. In fact, Revelation chapter 16, verses 1 and 2, we see God pouring out a bowls of wrath and a direct assault on human health and vitality that is promised by this type of Luciferianism of long life, health, prosperity, so they can get everybody hooked into obeying the great gods and set to ensure the earth's water, fire, and air in balance and harmony to ensure life goes on with no disease. It means in the New World Order's eyes, they're going to heal all diseases. They're going to have long life. In other words, they want to conquer death. In Revelation 16:2, we see the boils that afflict all who have the mark of the beast, who brought the lie of this brave new world because their lords end up betraying them, folks. I'm telling you, this is what's going on here. Ray and Set get together. They plan how to destroy Yom and chop up Yom, or Timiat, and create a brand new world. That is the idea here that's being portrayed. And Revelation 16 is the final judgment on this garbage, saying to the old God, your plan is done. You had enough is enough. Okay, that's what that's about. Just like the Baal cycle, along with the Mesopotamian creation myths, where they slayed the chaos monster, the fallen watchers, along with the Luciferian elites of the World Economic Forum and the World Government Council, view God and His order, His design as a people, as the chaos monsters, the evil ones, to either be converted or killed and chopped up. I'm not kidding you. That's their mentality, folks. This is a cult. Joe Biden is a part of this cult. A lot of the world's leaders, the tech giants, people are involved in the Klaus Schwab World Economic Forum cult. In other words, let me try to explain it like this. The old gods cannot kill God, because if they killed God, all life would cease, including theirs. So as Isaiah chapter 14 mentions about Lucifer seeking to exalt his throne above God's, is thus he will make God his servant. Okay, that's the idea. The devil failed during the temptation of Christ. If you look at the temptation of Christ in Luke chapter 4, you'll see the devil failing in that. So now the war is against God's order, design and creation, and people to chop them up, and to remake the world into a unity of the spirit of Re and Set, under the set of a ruling elites and the Antichrist who know how best to rule the world. That line of thinking is brought out in Revelation chapter 16, verses 5 and 7 out of the New King James. And I heard the angel of the water saying, you are righteous, O Lord, the one who is, and who was, and who is to be, because you have judged these things. For they have shed the blood of the saints and the prophets, and you have given them blood to drink, for it is their just due. And I heard another from the altar saying, even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are your judgments. You see, the whole idea of the New World Order is to chop up the existing order and chop up and get rid of God's people. They want to slay Israel. They're very anti-Semitic, folks. And in the book of Revelations, the last group of people are the 144,000, the two witnesses, and everybody who gets saved in that period of the tribulation period. They want to chop up, because that is the last bit of common sense on earth where you are allowed to be human. They want to get rid of what it means to be human and reshape it. And there's a reason for it. I'll explain it in a minute. Okay? So that's why the angels said those words in Revelation 16, verses 5 and 7. I'm going to bring this out later in our study in Revelation 16, a bit later. The modern day Great Reset promises a great worldwide redemption in justice and social justice. It is a redemption from the consequences of the human sin nature is what they're trying to do. It is a system designed by narcissists to control the world's wealth and property on earth and control all aspects of life. The ultimate goal of the Great Reset is to reshape humanity itself. You don't believe me? Let's look at some of these quotes. Klaus Schwab, and I quote Klaus Schwab in his book, The Great Reset, as well as the Fourth Industrial Revolution, says this, and I quote, we must address individually, collectively, moral and ethical issues raised by cutting-edge research in artificial intelligence and biotechnology, which will enable significant life extension, designer babies, and memory extraction. Folks, the goal of what Klaus Schwab is saying is transhumanism. And you can go on the World Economic Forum's website and you'll hear them discuss things like tattoos and insertable chips that will put your smartphone basically inside of you. That's the goal. Leading to the insertion, put nanotechnology in you, as well as alter your DNA so you can live really long, maybe 1,000 years. and so that you'll be a good worker bee. You don't need that many kids. If you live 1,000 years, you don't have that many kids, so you can have a sustainable world's population of 500 million to 1 billion. Okay? And you can maintain that perpetual balance with nature and leave room for nature, like it says on the Georgia Guidestones, by their thinking of longevity here. They also want to integrate artificial intelligence and biotechnology in order to alter humanity by altering their DNA. Just as Jesus warned about, as it was in the days of Noah, we are on the very threshold of this, folks. And the old idea, the old doctrine that the sons of Seth and the daughters of Cain interpretation of Genesis chapter 6 is not correct. The fallen watchers' goal was to alter and reshape humanity. The goal of Klaus Schwab is transhumanism and reshaping what it means to be human by, what did he say? Significant life extension, designer babies, and memory extraction. Okay? Not my words, his. Let's go back to Revelations 13, verse 16 and 18, about how the false prophet will, and I quote here out of the New King James, causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on their right hand or their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. His number is 666. The devil's number, the Antichrist number that everyone calls it. So I'm going to look into this more and how it relates to all I just said, so you can figure out if we are seeing such a transformation and training people today to receive such a mark, and how it and when it will come about and why. That's a tall order, I know, but keep tracking with me, folks. Notice the mark of the beast is given to the right hand and forehead. Both have significant, very significant biblical symbolism that lines up with the goals of the World Economic Forum's Build Back Better program. Let me explain here. The right hand symbolism in the Bible means the hand of authority, hand of strength. It's a consecration. It's setting apart one for service or loyalty. It's a special badge of honor before someone or something. That's the idea here. The forehead symbolizes one's allegiance that secures one favor. That comes out of Exodus 28, verses 36 and 38. Aaron was to wear a signet on his turban on his forehead, indicating he is aligned with God and has favor with God to be the high priest. Okay, so the idea is then written on the forehead is one's allegiance to something. It also means aligning your thoughts and will and spirit to someone or something. So basically, the false prophet has people surrender their right hand strength and authority to the Antichrist after a resurrecting the Antichrist back from the dead, replacing Christ Jesus on earth. So people will willingly surrender their minds to the Antichrist to secure the favor of the Antichrist to be able to survive, to buy, sell, and eat. For long life. They got redemption now. They can live long and prosper. That's all it's about. They'll be free of all diseases. And don't you know, in the first 2 verses of Revelation chapter 16, it's about boils coming upon human beings who receive the mark, showing this system is bunk. And it's anti-God. It's meant to replace Jesus, and God is very hacked off, so he pours out the vials or the bowls of God's wrath on all of this type of person, place, things, spiritual beings, folks. That's what it is about. In fact, Andrei Kodolinsky, chairman and CEO of the Kalininski Group and member of the World Economic Forum, said this: "Any skilled engineer can take control remotely of any connected thing. Society has not yet realized the incredible scenarios this capability creates." End quote. What the CEO is saying here, they're coming up with a way to be able to get human biology interconnected with the internet so they can control and track everything you do and alter your DNA by making you a transhuman. That's what he's talking about. The World Economic Forum's vision is to bring all into the realm of the fifth elemental spirit. In other words, this is what they want to do. They want to bring redemption by a covenant, to cure overpopulation by benevolent genocide, cure climate change by remaking a new world economy built upon tracking and monitoring of all people, to bring all into a global mindset to build back better a world from the chaos of the old order. Here's a brief summary from their website. Klaus Schwab in the Fourth Industrial Revolution says, this work indicates that the Fourth Industrial Revolution is unique, driven by its global network of smart network-driven cities, countries, and regional clusters, which understand and leverage opportunities of this revolution, top-down and bottom-up, acting from a holistic and integrative perspective. In other words, what they're trying to do is sell a bill of goods that cure diseases. You can have designer babies with no problems. You have a new class system of equality. You have a system of economic justice, economic redistribution. You have social justice of revenge that rules all. You have it comes by the elimination of free speech, free discourse, and getting rid of inequality only as they define it, not as it actually means. In other words, the Antichrist system will seek to provide a form of redemption to save humanity from itself by having all sign up for benevolent slavery to them. Okay? That's the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Okay? In fact, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab here, mirrors what Alice Bailey, occultist, said in an externalization of the hierarchy on page 130 of the PDF, and I quote, to the most unimportant man in the most unimportant national unit there comes the call for sacrifice and service to the group, which he is part. Eventually, humanity itself is thus swung again as an integral unit into the service of planetary life. And Klaus Schwab goes on and mirrors this idea. He says, we must address individually and collectively moral and ethical issues raised by cutting-edge research in artificial intelligence and biotechnology, which will enable a significant life extension, designer babies, and memory extraction. So why is significant life extension and designer babies, memory extraction, and becoming an integrated whole into planetary life so important to these people? Well, the Fourth Industrial Revolution is all about what is known as stakeholder capitalism. What is that? Stakeholder capitalism says this: you didn't build that, another did. So you have the right to go in and just take whatever it is you need. You're a stakeholder. These people didn't build that. They took your money and taxes to build these things. They didn't build it without you, so you have a stakeholder and you can take freely. There's no payment needed. Just go to the store and get whatever you need. There's no money needed. In other words, you might need a limited money system to maintain this new system, but you basically can go in and take whatever it is you want. That's stakeholder capitalism in order to ensure planetary health. The point of transhumanism and designer babies, and from such you can make a large, dumbed-down, genetically altered, Nathaniel, working slave-class human being to work the land. Just keep tracking with me. Make the products, operate the factories to supply and make the stakeholder, super capitalism, communism possible. So you have to have designer babies. You have to alter the DNA. You have to track everybody, even their thoughts. So you can see if anybody's not in line, you can get rid of them really quick to make the stakeholder capitalism work. So you have to have a large slave class to build everything. Just keep tracking with me. Above them, the slave class is the new middle class overseers who track and monitor the happy slave class that's been genetically altered to work in their respective jobs. And if any dissent is monitored, they eliminate them for the collective good of humanity, for planetary health. Okay? I'm telling you, this is their plan. I read it in the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, as well as a tremendous amount of other documents, as well as what's on the World Economic Forum. This is what they're planning, folks. This is what they're planning. Klaus Schwab says this: the practical aspects of the mode of elimination and hindrances can also be simply stated. The vision will appear as a fact on earth when individuals willingly or submerge their personal interest in the good of the group, when the group or groups merge and their interest in the national good, when nations give up their selfish purposes and aim for international good, and when this international right relation is based upon the total good of humanity itself. It is the fusion of these technologies and their interaction across the physical, digital, and biological domains that make the Fourth Industrial Revolution fundamentally different than all other industrial revolutions. That's Klaus Schwab there. All this is done for the benefit of to maintain the sovereignty of the elite, the new lords and masters of a new Marxist feudal divine right of lords and kings utopia, where they control it all under the Antichrist, one world leader. That is the world they desire to make behind, and what lies behind all their dragon speak that talks about they want to do everything for the benefit of humanity, cure diseases, all this stuff, all their redemptive slogans that the Bible tells us to be on guard for in the end of days. And all this is amazingly found in the number meaning of 666 and different algorithms that I did not mention in episode 16, which I did not have time to get into, okay? And I want to just tell you, I'm going to get into the algorithms that will explain everything what the elites want to do in a really unique way, okay? So I'm going to go over some of these new algorithms. Some of them I call the sequential algorithms, where you get the numbers and you add them together to get sums. Or you have the plus-minus algorithm, which I will explain in just a second. This will add a depth to the meaning of the number 666 and 660 and 6 in a way you have never seen before, and it will match exactly what you're seeing today transpire. With that, folks, I'm going to bring up on the screen the meaning of these algorithms and explain how I do this real quickly. Put it on screen so you can see it, okay? And then we're going to go over this. So let's look. So basically, these algorithms involve taking the prime factor sums, PF here, of 666, which are 6, 18, and 37. And then add these sequentially together using a plus-minus fashion like this. You have plus 6 minus 8 equals minus 12. And minus 21 plus 37 equals 25. So you end up with two sums with 6 as a root, and you have 12 and 25, okay? It's clear as mud, right? Just keep tracking with me. You'll understand. Next, you place the number meanings of 6, 12, and 25 with the current prime factor meaning of 666 I mentioned in episode 16 that reads like this. The prime factor meaning of the Antichrist number is the one who brings the house of man into bondage serfdom, is the chosen servant who gives gifts of a covenant sealed by blood. So you add in these algorithm sums. You throw out the plus and minus meanings. That doesn't have anything. You're looking at the numbers only. So you add these algorithms meanings of 6, 12, and 25 and attach it to the prime factor meaning here, okay? Then you go into plus 12 minus 25, you get the number 13, and it means apostasy, depravity, rebellion, outworking of hubris. So folks, let's put it all together so that you can simply understand this. I'm just showing you how I did this quickly. The prime factor of 666 is the one who brings the house of man into bondage serfdom, is the chosen servant who gives gifts of a covenant sealed by blood, possible DNA tech here, folks. So mankind attaches to a representative leadership for service, blessings, and favor to have judgment annulled for apostasy, depravity, and rebellion. Okay? See, this is what this is about. This is how the Antichrist gets the power. He wins the hearts and minds of many people to get the mark, and they have it all figured out how to do this. That's what this is saying. Well, folks, this is the same template that Klaus Schwab, Alice Bailey, and Luciferians want. They offer a utopic redemption from all diseases, global warming, overpopulation, descent by chopping up God's order and design and remaking humanity to fit a world run by narcissists. The same theme is also brought out in numeric meanings of 660 and 6 in greater detail, and lines up with what is written about the system of the Antichrist that the Bible speaks about, and how the Antichrist and his cronies go about deceiving the whole world by producing miraculous signs and wonders through a great deception and lies in order to carry all this out. With that, let's look at the next algorithm here of 600. Prime factor meaning of 600 and the root meaning that I mentioned in episode 16 is this. The devil's harlot household, creative works, prepare for a new beginnings by means of a governing order council during a divine period of probation, waiting for a man of peace, harmony, and accord to appear as a man of peace. The root here is 600, the master of warfare, fortresses, and armed forces. Okay, that's what 600 means. So I don't have time to go through every individual number and number meaning in great detail. So you'll see the numbers on the screen and the meanings of it next to it. Okay, that's why you're reading that. So how will this ruling class council prepare the way for new beginnings during a probationary period that prepares the way for the master warfare fortresses to appear is further revealed by applying the plus-minus algorithm that I just talked about. Plus 2 minus 4 equals 2, 2 minus 2 plus 8 equals 6, and so forth, etc., as you can see on the screen. And you get these sums, 2, 6, 18, and 102. Now you add the numeric meanings of these, and you get this. The devil's harlot household creative works prepare for new beginnings by means of a governing order council during a divine period of probation, waiting for a man of peace, harmony, and accord to appear as a man of peace, the master of warfare, fortresses, and armed forces that brings the household of man into bondage by making them destitute, abandoned, and in need of their mercy. Folks, when I studied this out, you'll find that this is how they operate. They want to make humanity desperate, destitute, feel abandoned, isolated, and alone, in need of their governmental mercy in order to survive. Keep tracking with me. Now let's look at the basic sequential algorithms that are mentioned here of the prime factor of 600, which is 2, 4, 8, 24, and 21. You simply add them together. And you add these sums together, you get 2 plus 4 equals 6, 6 plus 8 equals 14, 14 plus 24 is 38, and 38 plus 120 equals 158. And you get the sum 6, 8, 14, 38, and 158. Now you add these to get the sequential sums of 20, 58, and 16. You add these three numbers together to get the sum 78 and 284. Then you add 78 and 284 together, and you get the final number 362. I know this is as clear as a mud to you, but this is how it works. Put all these sequential sums together with what the original meanings, what I just described here, with the plus and minus meanings that I just put in there for you, and we'll discover how this new governing order plans to bring about this new world order. Let's look at it, folks. Let's look at it. The prime factor of 600, it says, the devil's harlot household of creative works prepare for new beginnings comes by means of a governing order council during a divine period of probation, waiting for a man of peace, harmony, and accord to appear as a man of peace, the master of warfare and fortresses and armed forces, that brings the household of man into bondages by making them destitute and abandoned in need of their mercy, getting man to attach to their deliverance, salvation of slavery, servitude, by means of producing fear, terror, and death. Keep tracking with me. I think some of you are beginning to compare what you're seeing today with this magic virus and all this other stuff. You're beginning to see something, right? I hope you are. Next, the sums 20, 58, and 216 that are part of this algorithm explain more. Okay, a 20 is the letter Kaf. It means a palm of the hand. Its root meaning that denotes hand that pays a purchase price, a redemption, or a hand that judges to bless or subdue by means of distress. To make one tremble, bend the hand that allows, stop, close, points out something, provides, palm up, give freely, down, cover sin, so forth, etc. And I wrote the meanings out here for you. And the context so far indicates a redemption that comes by a hand that brings about great distress. That's the idea behind here now. And you add it to the number of 58, which means worldly life, and you add it to the number 216, and it means brotherly love lost due to something. So let's go ahead and put all these numbers together so you can see every one of these numbers and algorithms and the bottom line meaning here of 600. And it says this: the devil's harlot households creative works prepare for new beginnings by means of a governing order council during a divine period of probation, waiting for a man of peace, harmony, and accord to appear as a man of peace, the master of warfare and fortresses, that brings the household of man into bondage by making them destitute and abandoned and in need of their mercy, to get man to attach to deliverance, salvation of slavery and servitude by the means of producing fear, terror, and death. How? By offering the hand of redemption that blesses with worldly life. Where brotherly love is lost due to miraculous signs that cause errors in judgment and rash decision that divides people, kingdoms, and priesthood as a foreign ruler wishes. That's pretty heavy, isn't it? But you didn't think that was in the calculating of the number of the name, did you? That explains their plans. So let's plug all this into the meaning of 60 and its prime factor meaning. Remember, the root meaning of 60 is a picture of a man laying on a side or a staff. It means a staff, what you rely and support on. So the prime factor meaning is the creative works of a covenant of peace with its promises for a new direction to travel in life that provides deliverance and salvation so man can attach himself to all that is offered. In Revelation chapter 13, in the last verse there, is the mark of the beast. It's in direct line and context. Revelation chapter 13, the mark of the beast. So let's apply the prime factor algorithm of 60, which is 4 times 15, which equals 60. And you can do the plus minus algorithm of 4 minus 15, which equals 11. And 11 means mystery of darkness that brings forth disorder, judgment that works irresponsibility that breaks God's moral law to bring about disorder, confusion, chaos by extolling irresponsibility and breaking of God's moral law and order. Or the prime factor of 60 can read like this: 4 times 3 times 5 equals 60, or basically 4 times 3 equals 12, and 12 times 5 equals 60. And 4 means creative works of a representative leadership that provides some type of support. So folks, let's put it all together from the top, and just look at your screen here. I'm going to read the whole thing put together. The devil's harlot household creative works prepare for new beginnings by means of a governing order council during a divine period of probation, waiting for a man of peace and harmony in accord to appear as a man of peace. The master of warfare fortresses, armed fortresses that brings the household of man into bondage by making them destitute and abandoned in need of their mercy, that gets man to attach to their deliverance, salvation of slavery and servitude by means of producing fear, terror, and death, brought about by offering the hand of redemption that blesses with worldly life, where brotherly love is lost due to miraculous signs that cause errors in judgment and rash decisions that divides people, kingdoms, and priesthood as a foreign ruler wishes. In order to have people rely, lean on for support like a staff, on the creative works of a covenant of promises for a new direction that provides deliverance, salvation, so that a man attaches himself to the mystery of darkness that brings forth disorder, judgment, irresponsibility that seeks breaking God's moral law to bring about more disorder, confusion, and chaos, brought about by the creative works of a representative leadership to have all rely and lean on them for support. Folks, I want to stop right now. All this is seen in the UN's World Economic Forum template to build back better by bringing down the existing system to rule it all and enslave humanity for their own good, as the elites see best. And folks, what I just said here is too uncanny just to ignore and blow off. All this lines up with end-time prophecy of the Antichrist and lines up with the character traits found in the book of Daniel about the Antichrist, along with the Antichrist system consisting of the great merchants and the great men of the earth, as Revelation 18 talks about. These are the elites who will have their OIC, we were wrong moment when they destroy the system that prospered them, the harlot system. The World Economic Forum offers and sells the ideas of redemption from global warming, climate change, income inequalities, bring about social justice, erasing a nation's history, and by reshaping of the human temple structure through biotechnology, AI, and through the use of implants or tattoos, altering the human DNA in order to control human populations. The Antichrist and false prophet will offer a replacement salvation by the mark of the beast that unites folks to the mystery of darkness. Have you thought that the mark of the beast that's being offered as a mark of salvation? I bet you probably didn't think of that. It's a mark of allegiance and surrender of your thoughts and strength to the beast and his cronies. That's what it's about, folks. That's what they want to do. They do this by implementing fear and terror of maybe a virus, so that you will alter your DNA willingly, roll up your sleeves for it. There's actually plans in place in the modern world to make this happen in order to change the world into a cashless society by the great re-and-set, to build back better from the ashes of the old world, reshaped into the new that is international in scope and is believed by the elites as absolutely necessary to bring about. This is a cult. It's cultic. It's an occultic cult of Klaus Schwab here. See, they want to provide redemption and fairness to the world. In other words, you got to have a stakeholder capitalism where you can just go in and take whatever you need. And for that to happen, you have to have a mass slave class who works for nothing. And you feed them and you give them goodies, but you dumb them down in intelligence so they're just Neanderthal workers. You have the overseers who monitor and track those people. Okay, following me here. And they are being tracked themselves by the elites, and any social discontent or anything that goes contrary to interplanetary harmony here is going to be expunged and exterminated by any of the class people who try to rebel from their respective lot in life, okay? It's called benevolent slavery, and they want to ensure that the world's population stays low so they can have benevolent genocide. So it's all for humanity's own good. They have so that the new middle class, the overseers of the Neanderthal workers, can go in and take whatever they want, and the elites can take whatever they want from the large slave class production center, okay? I'm just telling you, it's what they're thinking of. And so basically it's Marxism for everybody else, but for the elites. And they control everything, folks. So that's their idea of fairness in exchange for slavery. And they're going to do this by fear and intimidation. They're actually on the threshold of moving all into digital currency right now. And a blend of biotechnology that reshapes what it means to be human is in the thresholds. It's a world of absolute total control brought on by a magic virus, so people surrender everything to them. It's all brought about fear and abandonment and being alone in the world. Have you noticed that we're locked down? Have you noticed something going on? This is a test case for it. They're on the threshold of doing the whole bit. But right now they have to make the transition. They still need an economic currency to base off of so far. But eventually they're going to, these elites, world bankers, so forth, etc., are going to shift into a cashless society where they have a social credit score to monitor and track. And if you disobey, boy, you can't buy, sell, or eat. So you have this mark coming. You have the mark coming. They have it planned. This is brought about by fear and making human beings destitute, abandoned, and in need of their mercy. Just as the number meanings point out. The devil's harlot household creative works prepare for new beginnings by means of a governing order during a time of probation that waits for the man of peace, harmony, and accord to appear. The master of warfare, fortresses and armed fortress, that brings the household of man into bondage by making them destitute and abandoned in need of their mercy, that gets man to attach to deliverance and salvation of slavery and servitude by means of producing fear, terror, and death, by offering the hand of redemption that blesses with a worldly life. In other words, you get all your stakeholder capitalism. It's all free, baby. Where brotherly love is lost, where people are pitted against each other, okay? Where miraculous signs that cause errors in judgment and rash decisions that divides people, kingdom, and priesthood as a foreign ruler wishes. They don't want you to associate. They want you divided and fighting amongst each other. To have people rely and lean on them like they do a staff. They want people to rely on their creative works for a new covenant of peace with promises for a new direction that provides deliverance and salvation so that people will attach themselves to the mystery of darkness that brings forth disorder, judgment, irresponsibility that seeks of breaking God's moral law to bring about more disorder and confusion. Why? All brought about by the creative works of a representative leadership to have everybody rely on their support. This is how they prepare people for the mark of the beast, okay? The mark of the beast, 666, means the one that brings the house of man into bondage and serfdom to the chosen servant who gives gifts of a covenant sealed by blood, a new covenant to replace Christ, possibly DNA technology that's seen from the resurrection of the dead, so that people attached to the Antichrist representative leadership for service and blessings and favor to have judgment annulled for their apostasy, depravity, and rebellion that's been sold to them, that they can get away with it. They have the cure for all diseases. They have the cure for everything. You can go in, your stakeholder now. Just go in the garden of God and take whatever it is you want. Take. It's all yours, okay? We are that close. We are that close to it all, folks. Hope all this makes sense. This is basically an introduction for Revelation chapter 16. I just want you to see the depths and meaning of how to calculate the number 666 and 660 and 6, and how it ties into what we are seeing right now through the cult of Klaus Schwab and the United Nations, World Economic Forum, World Government Council, and a host of other organizations that want to move the entire world into globalism, and how world leaders are hooked into this, and they're actually developing the technologies in order to do this before our eyes and setting the stage for it to happen. I just want to warn you, because without understanding that, you will not understand why the 7 bowls of wrath are going to be released and basically wipe out the resources that the elites think they own. And you understand how it's judgment also against the ancient pagan gods of the Baal cycle, who wants to chop up God's order, his people, and design, and reshape it into a new utopic vision of total dominance and control in order to reshape humanity into a new humanity, just like they did in the days of Noah, that Jesus himself warned about to watch for is upon us. With that, we're going to pick up next week on the Christian Marauder. So again, let me roll out the video with my contact and support information on it if you'd like to help me out. With that, I'll go into more detail in Revelation 16, as this was, like I said, it's just the introduction so you can understand the brave new world cometh. With that, you be blessed in Jesus' name.